it is not a coincidence that political actors started using the internet for campaigns and direct communication with the American public in the same year, 1994, that web browsers started opening up the internet to masses. On July 29th, 1994, the Clinton administration launched the first White House website. It looked like this. This is not something that was meant to be a joke, although today we look back at it and we say, how could that possibly be a White House website? But it was a huge breakthrough. That same year, there were a handful of midterm candidates that created campaign websites. In 1994, and in 1996, most major national candidates had followed suit. Most presidential campaigns, all presidential campaigns in 1996 had some level of website, and a lot of congressional campaigns did as well. That continued to grow in the late 1990s and even early 2000s. Now it is obviously universal that if you are running for elected office, you need to have a substantial web presence. That's in 1996 also saw the emergence of websites for political parties, interest groups, news media, and nonprofit voter education organizations. So politics was emerging at the time when the internet suddenly became accessible to the vast majority of the public. As more and more people gain access to and start using the internet throughout the United States, then political actors, political organizations, political parties think that it makes much more sense to invest in having a web presence themselves. So the final piece here is thinking about where we're going next. And where we're going next really has to do with two key concepts. The first is broadband, not a new concept, but something that is going to be increasingly important moving forward. And the second is social networking. So very briefly, when we talk about the internet today and where we're going tomorrow, we can focus on broadband and dial-up adoption. Broadband meaning high-speed internet, started in 1999. There was a total of 1% of the American public that actually had access to or was using high-speed internet in 1999. By 2000, 3% of U.S. adult population had access to broadband connection, and this increased to 66%, as you can see here, in 2010, and maintained a relative level, relatively stable period since then. The access to internet that took place in dial-up, the slow non-broadband access, has continually decreased, but there are areas of the country that still do not have access to broadband, and so ultimately the idea of creating a universal broadband connection is something that will be very important moving forward, both in the United States and around the world. And finally, when we talk about social networking, the other important piece, we know that social networking today is such an important central role in what many of us do online, but is also becoming an increasingly important part of what happens politically online. What we will want to be paying attention to moving forward is the battle between efforts to expand the openness of the internet and efforts to create either a more closed internet or a more closed delivery system. Both of those battles are going to be taking place continually over the next several years, maybe the next decade or more. But it's just important to note that we are currently at the most recent position in a long-lasting battle between media and communication industries that we've seen with the battle of the boxes, the battle of the networks, and that will clearly continue. The last thing that I would like you to take a look at for this module is a video, actually the first in a series of videos that we're going to be taking a look at from a BBC documentary series, a really great mini-series called The Virtual Revolution. And what I would like you to pay attention to is, in this introduction section that we'll show next, the focus on openness that the early founders had, including Tim Berners-Lee, someone we'll talk a lot more about later on, and ultimately what this means for both the developed world and also the developing world. I look forward to talking about all this with you in class next time.